I know Kung Fu.
Show me.
You are the new student. Come closer.
You're listening to the Kung Fu Podcast presented by James Still.
I don't care if it's Muhammad, Imard, Bruce Lee.
And Steve Newby.
This is the original Five Fingers of Death right here.
But my hands are registered as lethal weapons. That means we get into a fight, I accidentally kill you. I go to jail.
Yeah, I got a game for you. You want this? You've got to guess the YouTube channel, right? By the titles. No, guess the YouTube channel by the titles of the videos I'm going to give you. Right?
Okay.
You ready? So the first one, Real Kung Fu Fighting, Part 1.
Fracked?
No. You're wrong. Ready? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles For Real, Bow Staff.
Oh, Christ, is that what's his shit face? Is it?
Jake Mace.
Jake Mace.
You got it. Yeah, just had to cough. Okay, guys, welcome to the third episode on the Kung Fu Podcast. My name's James Still. I'm joined, as always, by my teacher, Mr. Steve Newby. Hello, Steve. How are you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
How are you today again?
Yes, very good.
Live from Canada.
Hey there. Ooh, what a boat. Excellent. So we got some kung fu chat to do, haven't we?
Yeah, let's.
Anything? What do you want to talk about? Any particular subject?
I've been intrigued lately by watching people do self-defense on the web.
Okay.
And obviously on their own sites and so on, and I'm intrigued by the way they consider. I mean, sometimes I'm in the camp of the realists here. You know, we were talking the last podcast about the realists, the realism and all real martial arts instead of what they suggest is, you know, I don't know, traditional martial arts isn't real.
Yeah.
But I mean, often you can see where they're coming from when you watch some of these things on YouTube, and when you see. I'm not talking about the complete morons that think that they can knock someone down without touching them. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people who genuinely believe that some of these self-defense techniques they try to teach on YouTube actually work. And I'm not talking about people who just want to punch the 7 bags out of you. You know, this guy throws a punch, I smack him out this way, I move, I bang, and done. You know, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people who try to explain to ladies or, you know, young guys who really desperately would like to learn self-defense, who only end up struggling for their life because of these stupid videos that people put on.
Right.
So I was watching one the other day.
Yeah.
And the guy grabbed the throat as an example of a woman and demonstrating for her, so that she would then do the same to him. And he demonstrated that, you know, you've got to drop the chin down. Well, if someone's grabbed your throat, you're too late. Okay, it's too late. Their hands are already around your neck. What is dropping the head down, the chin down, gonna do? Nothing. Apart from that, first thing she'll do is grab at the arms to try to pull them away because she's being choked.
Yeah.
That's the first thing she will do. She will respond like that because that's not going to do. She will panic, and then of course you've got the same kind of instance where they grab the throat and they make a point with their two hands pressed together, the two palms together, and smack it up in the air. There's no way on earth some young girl is going to have the strength to separate those arms once they're around your neck.
Yeah.
It's a different situation if they're not actually around your neck if they're not secure.
Yeah.
But once they're secured, that's you. Unless you do something about it that is trained and that is automatically makes it extremely difficult for someone to put their hands around your neck. You cannot, in effect, really be choked if you understand simple procedures. Okay, and
Well,
if
what do you mean
someone's
by that? What do you mean by that?
Well, okay, someone chokes you, you throw your arm to the sky, right over the top, you're swinging your arm over. You see, the point about these self-defense situations is there is, the way I see self-defense is there's no such thing. There's no such thing as self-defense. What there is, which it kind of a contradiction of words, is self-offense. You're being offensive, you're counter-offensive, or counter-defensive if you want, but you're counter-offensive. You have to be offensive. If you don't, the guy will have the opportunity to up his game. If you simply try to drop your chin and push the guy away, or push yourself away from the guy as an example, what do you think he's going to do? If he's drunk or if he's drugged, he's just going to grab hold of you again, but this time he's going to hold you a damn sight tighter. You're actually escalating the situation unless you are punishing him and doing something about it, so he's unable to continue.
You mean like for the intent of trying to grab you, or do you mean you? I mean, at what point are you sort of referring to being offensive with the technique? So, for example, right, if someone's reaching out to grab your throat, you're not advocating for them to grab your throat, because then you have to deal with it after the fact. What are you suggesting? Are you suggesting,
I understand what you're saying. Ideally, don't let them grab your throat. Of course, if they're going to grab you, don't let them grab you. If they're going to punch you, just the same, don't let them punch you. If someone's punching you, you are going to try to avoid it, parry it, or whatever before it contacts you.
Yeah.
Why is it that people wait for someone to actually grab hold of them and get hold of them before they try to escape? That's beyond me. I can't understand that. The second someone is touching you, or before, you are going to respond. You are going to react.
But
and you also go on.
Don't we have to train in a for a scenario whereby we might be grabbed? I mean, isn't that fair enough?
Well, training is but I'm not advocating. I'm not saying simply that people can do it. What my complaint is, if you want to call it a complaint, is that when people are trying to teach people who obviously are in effect training with them, they're giving them a complete misconception of what reality is. And that's why I said to you earlier that I'm therefore in the reality camp. I'm in the situation where, wait a minute, get a life. That girl, that young girl, that small guy is not going to defend themselves in the event that that person has already grabbed them using that specific technique, that type of technique. Okay. You require an anatomical change in order to transfer the weight, or transfer the direction, or transfer the action of his joints to ensure that he cannot apply that technique, or he cannot continue to apply that technique. And the biggest problem you've got with these little videos on YouTube is, these people are going, oh, you do this, do that, then do the other, and no, it's not going to happen. And I'm not suggesting all of them. Of course, I'm not suggesting all of them. Some people are talented. When you see them on YouTube, they're talented, but unfortunately, beginners don't see the difference. They don't know the difference. They just go with what they see. And wouldn't it be amazing to try these things out?
Sorry, I just think I burped.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up.
I think you're making a serious point. Just very briefly.
Just tell everybody I was strangling you from here.
Yeah, bro.
And that's what was happening. Yeah.
When you talk about anatomy, right? If you're talking about self-defense, are you kind of saying that it's better for people to try and understand the anatomy of what's going on in a moment, rather than be given a series of techniques. This technique for this move, that technique. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? If you can grasp a sense of anatomy, then surely you have a slightly better idea of how.
Well, you have a direction to travel, don't you? You have a perception of how the other person is, how his makeup, how his body is structured, and so you can apply any specific technique which will counter that, the strength of that is his anatomical makeup at that particular time. As an example, and I know we talked about this, we can't perceive to put things on a podcast without video, because sometimes it's very difficult to explain, but I think this thing is quite simple. We the guy grabs your wrist or whatever. If you turn your hand upside down, immediately you've turned his hand upside down, making it difficult for him now to pull with the intended strength that he had in the first place. Right. So his strength is in his natural makeup. He will naturally grab you in a way that he's strongest. Okay, which is his hand on top of your arm or your wrist, and then pulling it towards him. Okay, and a second he grabs you, you turn your hand upside down. His hand has to turn upside down. Once his hand is turned upside down, not only can you then transfer that it becomes your grab and not his, so you can now counter defense, if you like, or counter offensive. It also makes him weaker. So remember that a small person training a martial art cannot be as strong as the bigger person training the same martial art for the same period of time, same techniques. It's not possible for them ever to grow to be the same size. We are not trying to be stronger, and this is the misconception of people who are strong in the first place, believing that they are always going to be able to win through strength. And I'm going to give you a scenario in a second. Basically, what we're trying to do is learn an art so that we are making the other person weaker. That is the whole point. We reduce their strength so we, in effect, have a better chance of being stronger than we were in the first place. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
So the scenario is simple. I want you to imagine that you are training a martial art and you are basing it on strength, and you interpret each technique, say grabs and throws, of being strong. So all the time you're training with these individuals and you're succeeding in throwing these people around of a similar size to you, and you get used to that and you throw them around using your strength. And then one day a big guy walks in. You try doing the same thing with him.
No,
using your strength. It's not going to happen. No, he's just going to laugh at you.
Well,
so you need technique.
Yeah.
And you need tactics, and you need the strategies, which we were always going to talk about in our podcasts. Strategy and tactics are the most important thing, not strength. If the strength was the most important thing, then all of us, the smaller people, the weaker people, the older people, we'd be susceptible to all that. But martial arts has changed that. Martial arts gives us a fighting chance. And remember from the other podcast, we don't have to win, we just don't need to lose.
Do you think all these videos on YouTube then are verging on sort of being dangerous, or giving people false hope, or what do you think?
Some of them are totally dangerous. Some of them are ridiculously dangerous, and yes, some of them do give people false hope, but some of the people are so up their own asses when they think that they can fight off some guy by chi. You cannot create chi, and this is a controversy for you. Okay, you cannot create energy. So when you see all these people in martial arts raising the hands, pushing them down, raising the hands, pushing them down, breathing in, breathing out, ready to break a brick, or ready to get a piece of wood smacked around their ear hole, or whatever, that is just total fallacy. It's total fabrication, right? It's designed to, draw a normal individual into thinking they're kind of superhuman, that they have this power to raise some kind of supernatural energy. Chi doesn't work like that. Energy doesn't work like that. It is simply it exists all the time. In Tai Chi, you're not raising your Chi, you're relaxing your body to allow that energy to flow better. That's what makes you healthier when you do Tai Chi. You do not raise Chi, you do not increase energy, you only make the natural flow of that energy, the energy that's already there, better. Okay, you make it flow better, but you don't increase it. Okay, you may increase it because you've relaxed your body more, so therefore of course the flow will increase, but the actual energy or the amount of energy you can create, you don't create it.
Yeah, but when we talk about Chi, what do you mean by Chi? I mean, what is Chi in the modern world? I mean, look, there's Chinese medicine, there's ancient Chinese medicine, but we live in a world of science, of research, etc. What do you mean by Chi? What does that mean?
Okay, so I'm not qualified to talk about Chinese medicine. I know that they refer to energy within the body, and they know and they understand the flow of that energy. They've never suggested in any shape or form in medicine that they increase the flow of that Chi, except by improving the body function, in other words, the relaxation of the body, and so on and so forth. So it's not that, but energy or Chi or Ki or prana, if you're doing yoga, it's all the same thing. All it is the natural electrical energy that flows around everywhere. We are in the end all atoms, the same as everything else on Earth. So the flow of energy, specifically around flowing water, around trees. That's why you see people in China when they do Tai Chi, they tend to be in parks, open air, and so on and so. If you do it in an office, then the flow of that energy is allegedly interrupted, or I don't know what the word is, but it's basically.
Isn't it the feng shui? That has something to do with it?
No, it's nothing to do with that. That's just that's the way they see things. Don't have your bed. Don't have your bed on an outside wall and stuff like that. No. The flow is interrupted by electrical impulses or like under
Wi-Fi
pylons
signals
and so on.
Signals.
Yeah, you can say it's Wi-Fi signals. You can say but basically it isn't as easy to recognize or to see the flow of Chi, to experience the energy flow if it's interrupted by a variety of outer forces, if you like, electric pylons and air conditioning, that sort of thing.
Talking about Chi, are we not just talking about sort of, if we're talking about transferring energy during the fight or whatever, we're not just talking about body alignment, we're not just talking, can we not just simplify it? Why does it have to relate to Chi?
Yes, we can simplify it, because in the West we don't have the same sort of concepts. We certainly learn and appreciate how energy flows, and we already know that energy flows. We call it electric energy. We call it negative ions and positive ions, but we don't call it Chi other than through martial arts, and Ki with Japanese martial arts, prana with yoga and so on. But yes, what you literally are doing is aligning the muscles. The more relaxed your muscles are, the more energy will flow to the end of that intended direction. Right. So if you wanted, Bruce Lee put it, pretty straight when he says karate's punch is like an iron bar, and then kung fu punch is like a
no. You got to do the voice. He's a karate punch is like an iron bar, whack, and a kung fu punch is like an iron bar with an iron chain attached to the bar, and it go whang.
Yeah.
That was when he was being interviewed.
That's right.
For the
But-
TV
but
show.
you
I
s-
love that. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're looking at the difference between power-based martial art and speed-based martial art, and the progression of speed has to be the alignment of muscles. It has to be the relaxation of those muscles in the interim as you fire the punch.
Yeah.
It has to be relaxed, and the whole concept of Tai Chi, as an example, is that those muscles are relaxed when you're throwing the technique, and when you're absorbing technique, and so on. So you are, and then you're perfectly balanced, which obviously gives you more strength in the position you're in, so that you can throw more power from the position you're in and absorb more power from the position you're in.
What do you think of these people? Now, you just mentioned Tai Chi and alignment and all that.
Well, Tai Chi and Kung Fu are identical.
Yeah.
Okay, they're just different styles.
Yeah, I'm not saying they weren't. I'm going to ask you about. Have you ever watched like the videos on YouTube where you see like Tai Chi master gets owned and stuff like that? And what do you think when you've studied an internal art such as Tai Chi, and you become very technical in it? What do you think about these people who have the sort of gall to get into a ring with, a boxer or an MMA practitioner who's used to the ring craft, etc., and they think that their knowledge of chi, the energy, body alignment, routing, all the rest of it is going to carry them through in a fight?
Well, I think the problem you've got is they're giving themselves to the rules of the game, and as soon as they do that, they are reducing the opportunities they have in the art that they practiced. So, an MMA fighter is purely training specifically, or a boxer is purely training specifically to the rules of their game. And as soon as you go into that game and you have not trained to the rules of that game, but you have trained beyond that and around that, and use techniques that will never be allowed, and have trained in so many different directions that do not comply with the rules of that game, you are automatically limiting the amount of training you've done specifically for that game. So you are going to be at a disadvantage. I'm not suggesting you're going to lose automatically. That's not necessarily so. And we've seen that in many cases where, a Kung Fu practitioner has succeeded in doing that. There was a guy going around as a monk. I'm not sure if he was actually a monk. I don't think he was.
I think he just called himself a monk to get the publicity.
But he obviously developed his training skill for that format or for that arena.
Sure.
But I saw him get knocked out.
Yeah.
So because he's taking the punches, he's accepting the punches, he's taking them, and I don't think anyone. I mean, okay, there comes a time in a fight in the middle of a ring where you have no choice but to take some of the punches. But no, it's not. I don't believe a fighter should block punches with his chin.
No.
Okay, I find it very difficult to perceive how and no matter how strongly you built, or how you suddenly find that, wait a minute, I haven't got a glass jaw, I'm a solid kind of guy, I'm not going to be able to be knocked out. It's not really true, because you don't know it happens till it happens. Okay, and so it is a very, very dangerous game you're playing. If you want to fight like Rocky Bilbo.
Rocky Bilbo? Is that like Bilbo Baggins?
Yeah, Bilbo. What was his name in Rocky?
Rocky Balboa.
Well, yeah.
Adrian, Bilbo. No.
Yeah.
No.
So he fights with his hands down, and that's what you're going to get if you fight with your hands down.
But Rocky Wisdom, it's not how hard
what was his name? Bilbo?
No, Bilbo Baggins. Bilbo Baggins. That's the guy from The Hobbit.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only kung fu
Well, I
in The
didn't
Hobbit.
actually. I haven't seen any of his fights, but they tell me he's good.
Yeah, well,
Apparently he's Lord of the Rings.
oh, we're asking for that one. Asking for that one. Oh, I'm sorry, that's funny. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, we were talking about Rocky Balboa. No, philosophy of life, according to Rocky Balboa, is not how hard you can hit, but it's how hard you can be hit, right? So, you know, you've got it wrong. You've got it wrong. It's official.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh dear me.
Not many people survive that kind of beating for a long period of time. I mean, the amount of boxers that are, well, they refer to it as punch drunk, and let's face it, it's not the way to go. It's people, you know, don't like that. It gives the sport a bad name. I'd rather see them with head guards on. I'd rather see them protected in some way. I mean, they make the gloves as big as they can without being stupid. But let's face it, the heavier the guy, the bigger the glove, category, and so on. So
well, you know, I've kind of I've heard that sort of with heavyweight boxers, they try to take the size of the glove down so it doesn't prolong the fight as much because you're dealing with a lot of.
Well, I'd agree with that. And you know something, they say that pugilism, you know, without gloves, fighting without gloves is dangerous. I agree with them, but fighting with gloves does prolong the fight, and therefore makes it even more dangerous. I would suggest. And this is only an opinion, of course, anyone listening, I would suggest that a pugilistic battle, a fight that lasts 30 seconds to a minute at most, is safer than going 15 rounds with a heavyweight champion. Of course it is. Because you get hit, you get hurt, you give up. Or you try to fight back, you get hit again, you give up. Or you fight back and you maybe succeed, but it's only within that short period of time, and there's not going to be prolonged damage in that case. Of course, there's the possibility of injury, there's a possibility of, you know, damage. No more, though, to be honest, than I think in a 15-round boxing match. So as far as I'm concerned, stick some bandage on to protect your hands, and just go for it. Take a look at Thai boxing, for God's sake. They stick these massive gloves on. In some cases they don't, but in other cases, international matches and so on, they'll put these massive gloves on and then they'll kick with their bare shins. And you think, what's the point in wearing those big gloves? Because you're going to knee him in the face with no protection, you're going to kick him in with the shin or the bare foot with no protection.
What about the elbow?
And the elbow. What's the point in wearing gloves? There's just no point in it. The gloves there are just to protect your hand. That's basically it.
Have you ever watched any of those gypsy bare knuckle fights?
Yeah.
Oh God, you know they're quite, you know.
Yeah, but they're short.
Yeah, they are. Some of them do drag on a bit, but my God, you know, it's
only because they're not hitting each other that much.
What do you mean?
Or not? Well, they're glancing, aren't they? A lot of the time, they haven't got any straight punches, so they tend to be glancing blows a lot. So I don't doubt that they hurt. I don't doubt that they might cut flesh, but I'm not suggesting for a second that the energy is all going right the way into your head, which, you know, with a boxer who's much more skilled, and you can see the difference between a boxer and then one of these set up fights between, you know, the army and the navy or whatever, where they suggest that they're going to, you know, have a boxing match, and you can see how poorly skilled they are, and that really makes you reflect on how skillful a professional boxer is.
I was watching a program about the parachute regiment on YouTube and their training, and you know, during the course of their basic training they have to do something called milling. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
So you know that. So milling, for anyone who doesn't know, is where you've got two opponents, sort of roughly equal size and weight, with boxing gloves on, head guards, and under no circumstances are you allowed to parry, to deflect, to duck, to dodge, to bob weave. You've just got to go straight forward, attack, because it's all about, you know, no fear, you know, advancing to towards
I know where they got that from. I know where they got that from. There's a martial art in Yorkshire called Yorkshire shin kicking. You are allowed to put some straw up your trouser legs, or for any Canadian people listening, your pants legs.
Brilliant.
To kind of lessen the blow. Yeah. But my God, that kind of thing is just, let's just kick the shins until the one gives up because he can't take the pain.
Yeah.
Well, that, that's difficult for me to comprehend. Why would anyone want to get hurt fighting?
Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly want to get punched or kicked. I mean, that's always been my thing. I mean, I'm glad I walked into your class. I mean, footwork is.
You know the way I think, because I always record which I've praised you about before, and I'm going to tell the world about when we fought the PKA guy. What was his name?
Oh, Ivan. Ivan. I will kill you. I will kill you.
So let's just give everybody this scenario. We're asked to produce somebody who wants to do a demonstration full contact fight. Okay, so we asked people, and we asked you, and you went, all right, kind of thing. So we went through a bit of training for you, and we really worked to try to make you as prepared as possible, expecting the guy just to do a demonstrate fight, because as we were told, oh no, he's got no experience, he's just there, he wants to do a little bit of a demonstration fight. And there we are on the day with the PKA, with mats, and they got 4 judges around the area sitting on these with flags on their seats, and let me tell this story, right? So Ivan the Terrible, Ivan comes out, some big Eastern European guy who obviously looks like he's done a bit of fighting.
Just okay. I mean, imagine He-Man and the Hulk.
Yeah, and there he is. And he comes out, and great. And we're going, wait a minute, I thought this was supposed to be a demonstration fight. So anyway, we go ahead anyway, and they begin the fight. Right the way through the fight, never hit you once. Never touched you once. Okay? He might have punched your arm as you were covering your body, your ribs, whatever. But he never landed a good technique on you throughout that fight, and that was really amazing for me. That was the essence of what I'm trying to produce, is what I'm trying to teach people. You make the other person do the fighting. All you did was bobbed, weaved and punched him, and that's all. And at the end of that fight, they gave the fight to him. Which just made us laugh because he didn't touch you. So let's get this straight.
Yeah, but
the winner. Yeah. Hang on. The winner surely is the person who lands the most punches. Yeah. Not the one who throws the most punches. The one who lands the most punches. The one who's the most successful. But for them, oh no, he won because he did all the fighting.
No.
That's the point. You're not supposed to do all the fighting. Anyway. To cut a long story short, he comes over to shake your hand and to shake your corner's hand, and all down the side of his face was swollen and black, absolutely spattered, and I could not believe their judgments. But we weren't there to win or lose. We were there to prove a point, and that day you proved that point.
Yeah, but
and I remember that, and I'll remember that fight for the rest of my life, and I'm kicking myself that we didn't video it, because that would be something else on YouTube, especially with commentary. We would.
I just remember listening to the corner shouting, "Kill him, Ivan! Kill him!" And I'm just thinking, "Oh, what? What's going on?" No, it's fun.
And he was doing kicks, and you were just ducking under the kicks, and then smacking him in the mouth. And I just could not believe that at the end of it they go, "Oh, well, he won." Well, how did he win? Look at the state of him. Poor old Ivan was black and blue across his face. Must have took months to heal because he was knocked to shit. and that for me is the essence of martial arts.
Yeah.
To take on the stronger guy and not get hit because he's just devoutly, trying to create power. He's trying to hit you from his strength and from his determination. And no, your determination wasn't to win. Your determination
just to survive,
wasn't to not to lose
as well. Yeah.
Not to lose.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody will get up and kill someone if they're threatened, if their life is threatened, or if their family is threatened. Pretty much most people will. And as I've said before, some people might take a little more time over it, but most people will fight back. And but they don't intend to win, they just want to survive. And I think that's what martial arts is about. It's about the ability to survive and not be the little guy in it. Shall I tell you about my very first fight?
Yeah, go on. Go on. Dying to
I was at school, junior school. It may not have been the first fight, but it was my very, very first encounter with a bully. Right. And I was in junior school, and there were two guys fighting, and I'll name them because if ever they won't listen to this because they don't do martial arts, but they were in my class, Billy Proctor and Edward Glover.
Right.
Okay, so 4:00 on the Green Hill, they're going to fight to see who's the cock of the school, the biggest cock of the school. So all the crowd of kids gather round, as you can imagine. They stand against each other and begin, look at each other, start fighting. Billy Proctor smacked Eddie Glover straight in the face, and Eddie Glover burst into tears. And that was basically it. Okay, that was the end of the fight.
Yeah.
And everybody started moving away from the fight and thinking, well, that was it. And guess what happened? Billy Proctor grabbed me personally.
Yeah.
He grabbed me and tried to throw me to the floor. I turned round, spun round. He ended up on the floor. I ended up straddling him, sitting on top of him with both his arms pinned down. Now, I'd never done martial arts in my life. I'd never fought in my life. And I looked at him right in those eyes and I said, "Will you let me go home and get me dirty clothes on?"
Oh, brilliant. And what did he say?
That was mine. Yeah, he said yes. He said, yeah.
Brilliant.
But he never picked on me again.
Yeah, I bet.
But I had no... It was an automatic response of survival, but my head wasn't in it. My mind wasn't in it. My attitude was not to win. My attitude was nothing. I just did not want to fight. And yet there I was, sitting on top of the cock of the school, having won his victory, being all psyched up, and I had him underneath me, pinned down, and I could have sat there and just pounded his face if I'd have known how to make a fist at the time. And that is, the whole point for me that day was taught me there are no such thing as hard men, just soft ones.
Yeah, I always like that quote from you. I use that quite a lot.
I got it from Rebecca Welsh.
Did you?
Yeah, in a film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was a woman in a cowboy film, and I think her husband had been killed by some baddies, and she went after the baddies. And they were saying, you've got to watch these guys, they're hard and that. And she turned around to them and said, there's no such thing as hard men, just soft ones. In other words, the simple fact is, if you believe someone to be harder than you, it's not true. It's just you are softer than them. That's it. So there are no such thing as, anyone who's truly been through hell and has been, like yourself, in a military situation, in a war zone and so on, they are not the kind of people who are going to be interested in picking on anyone in a pub.
No.
But if you pick on them, they will show you how interested they can become.
Yeah.
So
for
it's
real.
very important to understand that you don't start the fight, then you haven't got to worry about what that guy can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you start the fight, you better know who you're fighting. And the best way to win is not only to know your own ability, which will give you a 50% chance of survival, but you must also know the other person's ability. If you only know his, that will give you 50% of survival.
Yeah.
But if you know yours and his, you will have a 90% chance of survival.
So a bit of a segue into Sun Tzu there. How much, just out of interest, did you ever study sort of a lot of militaristic tactics and stuff like that? I mean,
Well,
I know last podcast we talked about.
I've got the book.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting book, that The Art of War, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I always make a joke with my son. Okay, I always say, you know, you and your friend, you get picked on by a bully or whatever. Okay, outside a nightclub, something like that, right? If your friend is being picked on and that guy is down on top of him, don't go up to him and try to fight him off. If he's bigger than you and he's bigger than your friend, he's going to hurt both of you. Go over to his girlfriend and punch her in the face. See how fast he gets off your friend.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then learn to run.
Yeah, sure. No, that's interesting. That's definitely a tactic used by the military, I'm sure. You know.
It is because if if you are,
You want
if
to
you're
split forces up and conquer,
yeah.
or, you know.
Well, it's not just that, James. If you've got a superior force attacking your ally, and your ally says, "Will you please come and help us? Come and help us." You know, we getting attacked by this much bigger military force. You're going to go, "Well, crap! If we go there, we're going to be in trouble as well because they are just too big." What do you do to stop that fighting your ally? Go and attack their cities. Go and attack them, their country. What do you think they'll have to do? They'll have to pull out of the fight, go back to defend their own city. So you have saved your ally.
Yeah. Yes,
And
but
that's a military tactic.
that
You
is a
cannot-
military tactic, but doesn't it? I mean, that doesn't sound like the art of kung fu. You know, being a Buddhist, sort of the principles of Buddhism, or is it because you're protecting life? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know how that would equate to Buddhism.
Yeah,
it is,
but
it is a military tactic that you would use, and the fighting tactic.
Yeah, but you're
I would
preserving the life of your buddy on the ground by,
Yes.
you know, not maiming, sort of, you know, injuring or, you know, his girlfriend. Do you know what I mean? I mean, why are we talking?
You don't have to take it literally, James.
No,
I
I'm
mean,
not
you
taking
don't
it
have to
literally.
punch her on. You don't have to punch her on the nose, right? You can just go up and grab her by the hair and call him and say, "Look what I've got."
Yeah.
You know that you don't have to like.
Hang on, I didn't say
know.
I would. I didn't say I would. Gonna get in trouble now.
No, it's just all I'm trying to explain is that it's a simple military tactic that prevents you having to fight a superior force. You know, and you are going to do everything you can to avoid fighting a superior force. And what a lot of people do, of course, is they raise the level by grabbing a weapon.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing today is a lot of people, they think that they're going to be safe by carrying a knife. More people are stabbed by their own knives for carrying them by the person they threaten with that knife than actually the people that they stab.
Okay.
They are actually, more people are stabbed with their own knives because that gives them, you know, a sense of confidence, but it doesn't make them any bigger.
Right.
So if that big guy takes that knife off you, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
And it's across the board, you know. If you want to threaten a guy with a big stick and he's much bigger than you, you know, you better have some skill to back it up, because do not let him get that stick.
Yeah.
You know.
Sure.
So if he's got a stick, pick up a bigger stick, but you better know how to use it.
Yeah.
And that is one of the useful things about using weaponry, is to understand the logic and targeting of weaponry.
What,
you know.
Yeah. What do you think is probably the most valuable lesson you've learned throughout all your training of kung fu, either that you've concluded yourself, or that you've learnt from, or from Master Ya, or your peers, or what do you think?
That's a really difficult question. I don't know. I've had some wonderful experiences. It's a feeling when you're training. I love the sticky hands, as you know, and I love the ability to. I just love the beauty of martial arts. It certainly gave me a lot more confidence. I was very quiet. I never, used to say boo to a goose. I really was a very shy guy, as I've just described earlier with Billy Proctor. The simple fact is that the skills do come into play. I certainly know that they've helped me through life when I've done interviews, and and certainly when I've gone for jobs and had an interview at a job where I can look at the people and say, well, as far as I'm concerned, you haven't got the ability I've got, so shut up.
Yeah, right.
Say what you want, but and often it's not always good because sometimes they can see how I'm looking down on them, and that it's never great.
I think most normal people just imagine them in their underwear on the toilet or something.
Yeah, that's right. A couple of examples I can give of related skill that perhaps I really feel pleased with. And it's not about the fighting. Yes, certainly you have altercations. A truck driver by trade. I was a truck driver by trade. I still drive a truck, and
You're just a truck driver. And here was me thinking you were a master of martial arts.
Yeah, just a truck driver, that's all. Yeah, well, I stopped truck driving for about 20 years when I was, well, not that long, about 10 years, I guess. But you get to a certain age and you have to renew your license in England, and at that time I had to get a digital tachograph, tachograph card rather, and so at that point, at my age, I had to then do 6 months of driving in order for me to be qualified, because obviously it was my plan B, shall we say, if ever anything happened to the martial arts. As in England, I did have an awful lot of things happen to me during that period, and so that was my plan B. So I ended up driving again, and sure enough, I do enjoy driving. Who doesn't enjoy driving a truck? And if anybody wants to look on YouTube and see Englishman Steve Newby, you'll see me driving the Coca-Cola. That's the in Canada, that is the highway to hell, as they call it, and because it is one of the most dangerous roads that you go on, and it's like, if you can imagine driving over Ben Nevis for maybe 4 hours out of the 7-hour drive I used to do, and then back. I used to do it twice a night. Drove the Coca-Cola 250 times through the dark, in the snow, and when I got the job, I didn't actually know that those were cliffs. I went for the interview. I just took my resume in and I went, guess a job. I'm looking for a job, and they grabbed me and they went, "You're just what we're looking for," and they gave me this job, which sent me over the most notorious drive of my life, of the bloody world, one of the worst places you can drive, the Coca-Cola.
Wow.
And through snow, and I saw trucks over the side. I saw them in pieces down the side, because when you go down a hill in Canada, you don't go down a hill and still have your brakes left if you use your brakes. You've got an 18-mile downhill travel, and if you use your brakes in that 18 miles, you are in for some serious crap. And you get to the bottom of that hill and you see trucks on fire, and you see trucks in pieces, you see trucks upside down, and I'm talking semis up to 72 feet long, right? I'm not talking 45 feet trailers, they're 53-foot trailers minimum. 2 of those on a truck you can get here. Obviously in Australia you can get 5.
Wow.
But no hills.
Listen, I've got to stop you there. We've got to go back on track You see.
Yeah, sorry.
We should, you know, we
I do
need a
go off
code
on my
word,
own.
don't we? We need a code word whereby I say, "Oh, Steve, bit salty that," you know, and so you know to go back to talking about kung fu because you can talk about.
I think a code word should be something like "Shut up."
Shut up! The international sign of distress from Team America. Right.
Yeah. So basically, I was a truck driver. Yeah. And what was we talking about?
Right, so we were talking about martial arts in your daily life. Now, I was gonna ask you the question. I think you were just getting to it. During the course of your life, when have you ever sort of knowingly or unknowingly, used martial arts? Not for fighting, but has it ever crept up in every day?
No, that's right. That's why I was talking about the interviews and so on. But there are two occasions I can remember, physical situations. I was waiting for my daughter when she was 5 years old. She's 26 now. Waiting for my daughter to come out of school, and this little brat. She came out, she started climbing the climbing frame in the playground, you know how it is. And this little brat picked up a stone and he just threw it straight at the kids that were playing on the frame. I just happened to be in the middle of it, and this piece of tarmac, as it was, came flying straight at me, at my head, and I saw it, and it was within like 6 inches from my head, and my hand just went bang, and I did a deflection. I just parried it, and it literally hit my hand directly in front of my face and bounced off. And the guy looked at me, the little kid was just looking at me, in trepidation and fear, and realizing what he'd done. But I'd like to think he was looking at me like as if I was some kind of superhero, which happened in the second instance when my son Daniel was only about 2.5 maybe, and he had a little leather jacket on, and we went to the Bridge North steam train, and the carriages are fairly old, so there's a bit of a gap between the
platform,
the step and the platform, And I was telling my daughter to let go of him because she was trying to hold him. She was scared he was going to fall. And I was pulling him, and then she let go, but also I let go. And guess what? He went straight down between the platform and the train. And before he hit the floor, I'd caught him.
Wow.
I'd caught his leather jacket. I just dropped to my knee and grabbed him, and he'd actually disappeared under the concrete of the platform, which for me was astonishing. And I just pulled him up, and as I pulled him up, there's a guy running towards us because he saw him fall, and the look on his face was, where did you come from? Some Marvel movie? It was amazing.
That's kinesthetic, isn't it? That's when you do something.
It was an automatic response that I had to do. I've not. It's not as if I've trained to do that. Someone throws a punch at you, so you grab their leather jacket and pull them out of a hole. That doesn't work like that. It just happened to be a good reaction.
Yeah.
So I was very pleased about my spontaneous reaction.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of thing that it's not all about fighting. There are many times when the reason I started talking about truck driving is because, quite frankly, pretty much every day you're going to see road rage in England, in the UK, and road rage I saw a lot of.
Yeah, sure.
And I have to say that in the early days I was pretty much as angry as the next guy, to the point where a guy went round an island and cut me up, and I jumped out my truck, stood on the steps and screamed and shouted and put my finger up to him and everything. Then then suddenly I recognised him as my uncle. And when I got home, he was visiting my dad, and I thought, oh my God, I hope he doesn't recognise me. So yeah, that was a bit of an experience. But yes, I went to China, and I learned how to avoid.
Well, don't they just
road rage.
Continue whistling and not even acknowledge them?
They simply do not look at the person antagonising. Yeah. The guy might scream and shout, and they just do not look at him, and that is a great way of avoiding a confrontation. And there are many ways. I obviously have avoided confrontations with drivers and so on. some really funny anecdotes I've got. And but yeah, they are. Well, in China, of course, the Chinese believe that showing anger is a sign of weakness, and I think that is a really good way of living. But it's a very hard way of living.
Yeah.
So when you're brought up in the West, when everything is here and now and speed and fast and aggressive, it's a very difficult way to be brought up.
I'm sure. I'd rather be brought up in the West, though. I mean, I don't fancy my government herding me off into a concentration camp. But,
Well, might still happen.
Did you know? I was just thinking. You're talking about China and driving. Did you know that there are more taxi drivers in China who are called Sifu than there are martial arts instructors?
Well, really?
Yeah.
Sifu.
Yeah. It's like a term that's used for taxi drivers more than that.
I wouldn't want to be a taxi driver in China. We was on a coach going in a line of traffic, maybe 5 lines on this 3-lane motorway.
Yeah.
5 lanes of traffic and a 3-lane motorway, and right in the middle, coming up the other side with this guy pulling this cart right in the middle of the 5 lanes of traffic coming in the other direction. I just could not believe it. It's just, but that's that's the world we live in. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some amazing things.
Yeah. Well, I think we should end it there. We're just about our time is just about up, and I'm not sure what we concluded, but go on.
Well, I was just going to say, James, that by the time we get to the end of these podcasts, suddenly we start talking about something totally different to martial arts.
It just it goes off in a tangent, doesn't it? It's crazy.
Well, it's our podcast.
Yeah, what the hell? If you're lonely enough to listen to us, then you got to put up with it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people say, "Oh, you should." Tell people about yourself, talk about yourself, whatever, and I go, well, no, and then you get me on these things, and what happens? I just
can't shut you up.
Everything. Yeah, like I said, I could talk a glass eye to sleep. So, but
Well, thanks again, Steve, for joining us, and guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Kung Fu Podcast. My name's James Still, and as always, I've been joined by my teacher, Mr. Steve Newby. Say goodbye in French, Steve.
A reservoir.
Okay, all right then. Take care, guys. I don't know. So, see ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Kung Fu Podcast. If you enjoyed that and would like to find out more about us, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube under SJN Martial Arts. That's SJN Martial Arts. And please take time to like us, share us, and subscribe to us. We'll see you soon on the next episode of the Kung Fu Podcast. Take care now.